Welcome to Marriage Mondays with Nick and Trina Brinson under the leadership of Dr. Finest and Lady Denise Bush. We're here on Monday nights to provide married couples with some good advice and to potential couples that want to get married. And hopefully the information we give them will be helpful in all that they intend to do with their lives. Okay, and we just want to thank y'all for tuning in tonight with us. We just want to continue to give you the knowledge that we get from our mentors, particularly our Bishop, Finest Bush Jr., and our First Lady, Denise Bush Jr. We have Lady Denise Bush, not Junior. So we just want to say hello to the people that are tuning in. Hey, Miss Sylvan, how are you?
All right, and I think my mother has joined us. It's Emily Anderson, and she's bringing with her the Evergreen Marriage Enrichment Crew. So we are thankful for you guys' support, and hope that tonight's topic will be helpful. Miss Samika Cummings, who is a part of our marriage ministry team at Crown, Tori and Samika, faithful folks. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Those of you that are joining in, watch party or just share the link so that as many people as possible can have access to the information. And you never know who needs this information for their relationship, to help build them up and support them. You could be saving someone's marriage just by sharing information. Our youth pastor, Shoshana Wesby, is on. I'm so glad we're having some single folks tune in tonight, because this topic will be great for you guys. It's an important topic for married folks, but I think it's as valuable, if not more valuable, to those who have not yet entered into a marriage relationship. But it'll be very helpful for both groups. So let's see who's that. Francine and Charles Brown have joined us.
Elder Christian.
Elder Christian, yeah. So many faithful folks that tune in each week and are a part of the Crown Church ministry, and love seeing that we have not just Crown folks, but other people as well, that you guys are reaching out and inviting others. Deacon Tony Jones has joined us. And we see that several people have shared the post. We appreciate that. Thank you for doing that. So our whole purpose is to support marriages and to support those that are in relationships, to make your relationship stronger. And honestly, marriage is supposed to be, it's designed by God to be a reflection of Christ and the church, the relationship Christ has with the church. So we do have that blueprint to go by, but so often we forget, and we get wrapped up in our personal challenges, and we forget that we really are a reflection of Christ's relationship with the church. It's a marriage,
right?
And so our marriages are a metaphor for that. And so we have to remember that God has a plan for marriage. And one thing Pastor Bush always says that we really try to keep at the forefront of our minds is that the ultimate goal of marriage is peace. That should be the ultimate goal, is peace. So that's just a little bit, just wanted to chit-chat a little bit to give time for some folks to join. Today is
Memorial Day.
And so we certainly do not want to overlook the value of so many people who have lost their lives, have sacrificed, have given their lives for our freedom. That's not anything to be taken lightly. And so we salute those of you who have family members and who have seen the struggle and have experienced the loss of loved ones in order for us to enjoy the freedoms that we have in this country.
I also want to salute our 2020 graduates. You know, they've been through some changes in these times, and things are a little different for them. So we just want to just give our honor and our appreciation for what they're doing and where they're going to go in this nation to make it better. So we salute our 2020 graduates.
Yes, absolutely. That's a very commendable task. School is a long journey, and it's hard, and not everybody makes it. So we certainly take our hats off to those that are graduating, these graduates in this non-traditional year. So we celebrate you.
Yes, we do.
You ready?
All right, with that said, let's get on with tonight's topic. Tonight we're going to come from a book by Mr. Gary Chapman. Things I wish I had known before we got married. Things I wish I had known before we got married. And some of y'all can relate to that question, because when you finally figured out in your marriage that you needed some more information in order to survive, you thought about what I need to do next or where I need to go get this information so me and my spouse can do what we do to live together. So we're going to go from that topic tonight, and we're going to start with Trina with the first thing we're going to talk about.
Well, one thing before we go into the next topic that I want to make sure to emphasize is that this topic, although it seems like it's geared towards people who are not married, in that it gives advice for before the marriage, and you might be thinking, well, I'm already in it, not too much I can do. But honestly, the revelations that are in this book, the information and insights, will help you so that you don't have to struggle so much in some of the hard places. Some of the areas within your relationship where you might be constantly butting heads, it may come from your belief, an underlying belief you have about something you've never even questioned. And so just to raise your awareness of topics and areas from this book that we're going to share, as well as some of our own insights, that can help you to come to a place to maybe adjust your belief system and make you a little bit more flexible so that you're able to strengthen your relationship in those areas that may have been hard. So it's not at all too late. If you're already married, today's discussion is definitely for you, right, as well as for our single folks.
And the first question that we're going to talk about, and that our first topic is, why love is not enough in a marriage.
Right. So the foundation, most people get married, at least in this country. We don't typically do arranged marriages because those are not built on love. They're built on a previous arrangement. But most of us have had the option to choose who we want to marry. And most of us go into it and we're so in love. And the first revelation that this book gives us that love is not enough. It is not enough of a foundation for a marriage to survive and to thrive. And Dr. Chapman, who's a Christian counselor, he's counseled for years, and in the book he talks very openly about his marriage and the struggles that he and his wife have had, as well as patterns he's seen through so many years of counseling Christians in their marriage relationships. And he discovered that romantic love has two stages. And the first is that stage we're all so familiar with. Is, oh, I love you. You're so sweet.
Can't do without you.
You're so kind to me.
We
just love each other. Can't get enough.
Ooh, can't wait to see her the next time.
Exactly. To where you just, your heart beating fast and you're so excited and you just adjust everything in your world for that person in order to have time with them, to enjoy them, to please them. That is a form of love. It really is. And very often that's what gets us to the altar. You feel this person is so special, so right for you. And he's in this book, he says he gives that about a good 2 years after marriage on average, to where people realize that starts to wear down, starts to fizzle out. I think it was longer than that for us, though. I mean, it was a long time, I think, before we got to the second stage.
Yeah, we actually started getting tired when we. I
think
don't want to
after
say it,
our
but
second child.
yeah.
Yeah,
After our
when
second
life
child.
really hit us in the face. But the way he talks about that second, so that was probably about 6 or 7 years in. By the time we had Charity, it was easy. I mean, marriage honestly was easy those first several years. I mean,
Yep.
even after the first child, it was pretty easy. We had conflicts and ups and downs, but we still, I think, felt that romantic, that kind of honeymoon stage for a long time. And we dated a long time. We dated
5 years.
5 years. Yeah, we just had to get through college. And pretty much as soon as we got finished with college, we got married. But that second, what is it? Second stage of love he talks about. It is a stage that's more intentional, and it requires a conscious transition, because when the easiness of the honeymoon stage starts to wear off, you have to become intentional about making the relationship work, and that requires some skills. And so this the topics that we come to you guys with each week, these are topics that we're sharing with you that we've learned out of a necessity for being intentional to make our marriage continue to work. And it has taken some work, and it has been books have helped us tremendously. We've had mentors along the way. Participating in marriage ministry programs has been very helpful to us, even before we got to the point of having conflicts between us that were seemingly impossible to resolve. Even before we got to that point, I think, because we had all the we participated in marriage ministry classes before things got bad. And so we had some tools in our toolbox, and we had people that we could call on, mentor us, to help us through those really tight times, those hard spaces. But that's the first thing, is that love has 2 stages. You want to say anything on that?
Yeah, and then in that second stage, I call it love comes with a couple of friends, and you're gonna need these friends in order to make what Trina was saying work. Where you know that you need mentors, where you know you need some other literature to get you through those tough times. Those couple of friends I call the friendships of marriage. It's communication. You got to know what each other's going through when you are going through it, if that makes any sense to you. If she's upset about something and I'm upset, and we can't get together on an agreement, that's when you need a mentor, a mediator, to come in between y'all that can talk to both of y'all to your spirit, not necessarily to the person. You don't need somebody that's going to be on her side. You don't need somebody going to be on your side. You need to talk to somebody that's going to make both of y'all come to some resolve about what y'all going through. Then there's trust. As long as you got the trust, you can continue to get through a lot of things, because trust makes it where, okay, I'm still willing to listen to her because she hadn't violated me in that way. And then there's respect. As long as we respect each other, we can pretty much get through anything. But if there's a loss of respect and the relationship becomes volatile, then there's another level of counseling that needs to happen if the relationship needs to continue.
Right.
So those are the friends of of love: communication, respect, and trust.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the first topic we've actually kind of finished discussing about love coming 2 stages, and once you get in that second stage, that's when you get intentional about loving the other person.
I honestly thought that when you meet somebody that you decide you're going to marry, I just assumed that you always have those feelings, those ooey gooey emotional, tingly feelings that you have. I really and truly, maybe I was just more naive than I thought, but I really thought that would always stay. But it does not stay. It comes and goes in stages.
Right.
And the longer you are married, as long as you acquire some skills, you learn to gain control of how to get back to that stage of having those kind of feelings towards one another. And it takes a level of maturity to know that just because I don't feel that kind of infatuation today, that doesn't mean that it's okay for me to go seek that feeling somewhere else.
Right.
That means I have to nurture this relationship and do something that I can do to encourage the relationship to continue to grow, to get us past those rough patches or those dry seasons, because there are seasons to marriage. It's not the same all the time. Now I don't know. You'd have to ask somebody who's been married longer than 20 years, longer than us, which actually will be at 21 years next week.
June 5th.
June 5th. That's next week.
Okay.
Next Friday or Saturday, maybe. We need to make some plans. So that'll be 21 years for us. So it might get to a place we have to ask Pastor Bush or ask my parents or someone who's been married more like 40 years to find out. It appears to us from the outside looking in that both of those marriages, Pastor Bush and Lady D and my parents, it appears that they have a pretty even, like they don't do as much up and down as younger couples do, that they're more even keel.
Yeah, it look like the love is sustained and
more rhythmic.
It comes from within more than just trying to go through the motions of trying to love each other. Because some people say fake it till you make it, and sometimes that happens in a marriage. But with those examples Trina just mentioned, it looked like the love just kind of
flows
easily.
Yes,
more easily.
Yeah, and I honestly think they would say it would, but maybe we need to get them on here at some point and gain some wisdom from those that are twice as far down the road as we are.
Well, there's one more revelation I've come to realize with dating. Since we got singles on here and we got married on here, married couples on here, dating serves the same purpose when you're single and when you're married. And I say that to say this. You're getting to know each other in the dating relationship. Guess what? When you've been together so long, you can kind of forget who the other person is. That's why it's still important to date in your marriage. Because it's just y'all two. The kids are not there. You're not talking about bills. You're not talking about your job. You're basically with each other, and you're going through the process of getting to know this person that is maturing yearly, daily, into different thoughts and different plans and different dreams. So you have to talk to that person to find out what has actually changed. So I think the dating process serves the purpose for marriage and before marriage.
Before marriage and after marriage.
Before marriage and after marriage.
That is an excellent point.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's go to the next topic. Actually, there's more topics in the book than what we will discuss today. But I do encourage you to invest some time and some thoughts and some money into learning, and so I certainly would recommend that. Sometimes we have read books together, meaning we buy 2 copies, and we have actually gone through the book, a copy of a book that we both have, and we meet like each night or once a week. We did that with the Purpose Driven Life, remember?
We did it every night.
Yeah, every night. Okay, so we'll read like a chapter on our own, and then we come back and talk about whatever we read in the book. That has been a helpful process to us. We had another book that we read together. I can't think of the name of it. I think it was For Men Only and For Women Only. And so we bought a book, the For Men Only and For Women Only. I read the book first that was about me. So it was written for men. And so I read that book and I marked what applied to me, because there were some things in there that they were talking about they talk about patterns that are there for women, things that women need and what men need to know. Some of it applied to me and some of it didn't. And so what I did is I went through and marked through the book and, highlighted what was relevant to me, what applied to me. And then he did the same in the book that was for women only, what applied directly to him. Then we switched books.
I read them.
And read it, and then we talked to each other. We were going through a hard time when we had that book. I mean, I think we both was ready to walk out the door. And that book gave us a lot of understanding. At least for me, it did. It helped me, and it helped me be able to articulate some of the things that I was not able to articulate that was written in the book For Men Only. I could identify myself. And so books have been a critical part of it for us, of part of our process of learning. Okay, but that's not what I'm supposed to be talking about. All right, so the next topic is how to solve disagreements without arguing. Oh my God, I could just highlight this and write this in bold print because I grew up in a household full of highly intelligent people who love to argue and debate.
And hold on, I grew up in a different household where it all just kind of, you say what you had to say, and then we went on with our business. We didn't debate it. We just said it, and we go away from it. So that right there is
a huge problem.
Yes,
that was a huge problem because in my household, you stay there, you talk it out. You know, it doesn't matter if you're arguing. That's part of the process of communicating. That was the house that I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's what I was accustomed to. You don't just walk off without having some kind of understanding or some kind of having shared what it is that you want to say your piece. You know, you can listen to the other person say their piece too, but you know, I just didn't understand that you talk and walk away. What is that? I mean, that didn't communicate anything good to me. And so we had a huge barrier to overcome with that. But that was something I did not know before marriage, is that you can solve arguments without arguing. Although his method was not solving the argument either.
It didn't solve the disagreement.
Right, it didn't solve the disagreement.
I was not an arguer.
He was avoiding the argument.
Yeah, because where I grew up and how I grew up, arguments didn't lead to what I saw were resolutions. Arguments led to fights. So I much rather talk it out with you than to argue with you about it. Because the way I grew up, arguments led to fights, physical fights. Where she grew up, arguments led to resolutions, and then you solve it, and then that's when it's solved. But most times with us, what we've learned to do is when we feel like that process is getting heated, she allows me to go, and then we can come back to it. And most times she bring it back up, what we got to talk about, and then we can have a fruitful discussion about it.
Well, I think we had to learn some strategies. We had to learn that you can't. I don't allow him to walk away every time because I told you just today. Why are you leaving? I'm talking. I'm still talking. I'm not arguing. I'm talking, and you're walking. I need your attention. I need to see your face. And so we just have learned that we both have needs inside of communicating, and we have to respect those needs. I get that he can't always talk about whatever it is on the spot. That he sometimes needs time to process it and to think about it. And most of the time when we come back together, he can then articulate what it is he needs to say because he will have thought about it, and then he can talk about it. He's not always able or ready to have a full discussion on the spot. My clarity comes to me a lot of times while I'm talking. And I think the opposite is true for him. I think I get to talking too much and he don't know what's going on, and it's too much.
It's not a good situation.
It's not. It's just not productive. And so we've had to, sometimes I have to go ahead and write down what it is I'm thinking so I don't lose my thoughts. But I found it's good for me too, to slow down and to not to air everything as I'm talking, because he gets confused when I'm talking, and I'm changing my mind as I'm talking, and then he don't know what I want, and then he's just like done. So yeah, communication is the key. You are so right, Cheryl. So do we have some questions?
Maya Scott.
Oh, hey, Maya. It's Evergreen
Maya
folks.
Scott, my fault.
Maya, you can get this book anywhere books are sold. It's on Amazon.com. It may be backwards in the camera. I hate that if it is. I can't tell. But that's what it looks like, you know. But you can look it up on Amazon.com and order it. Walmart very often has it. Sometimes with Walmart you have to order if you want a specific title. But pretty much anywhere books are sold, you can order it. But I would recommend going on Amazon and ordering it. Yeah, but it's an easy read. And one thing I really liked about this book is the chapters are short. And like I said, the author uses a lot of his own personal experiences as well as stories from people he has counseled. And at the end of every chapter, there's about 5 or so. I think there's 4 on this one. 4 or 5 discussion questions For example, what are we talking about now? How to solve, what's it called? Disagreements without arguing. One of the questions it has for talking it over is how have you encountered any conflicts in your relationship in the past few months? How did you resolve them? At this point in your relationship, do you have any unresolved conflicts? Memorize this question and use it the next time you have a conflict. How can we resolve this conflict so that both of us feel loved and appreciated? So the book really does guide you through some practical steps and tips for helping you to resolve whatever the issue is that he's talking about, for things that you wish you'd known before you got married. But that's literally the name of the book, Things I Wish I'd Known Before We Got Married. And the author is Gary Chapman. I didn't realize today how many books I had by the same author. Because we were talking, I was like, dog, every book we pull up is by Gary Chapman. But he's a Christian counselor and Christian author. And his beliefs match up with our beliefs. So the books that he writes are very applicable to us.
We have another question by Wanda Mangrum.
I know Wanda. It's my friend
If
from
those
work.
stages come and go at the same time for both partners in the marriage, is the marriage in trouble or recovering? It's a cycle, Miss
Right.
Mangrum. Your cycle is different from anybody else's. Most times, both partners probably will go through the same cycle.
But not necessarily at the same time.
Right. So is the marriage recovering or is the marriage in trouble? That's a little bit deeper than y'all have to dig into in your own marriage and figure that out and go to a mediator to get that answer.
Yeah, I think it depends on the individual situation as to whether you're in trouble or recovering. That's a normal process to have those seasons where ebbs and flows. That doesn't necessarily mean the marriage is in trouble. The trouble comes in when you don't recognize that that's a normal part of having a relationship, is that you have those seasons that come and go. That's the nature of the way God created the earth and the way he created us. We have cycles within our body. We have cycles within the seasons. We have cycles within our mood.
Cycles in your finances.
Exactly. Everything is about a cycle. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship is in trouble. It means you're going through a cycle. And so having an awareness that cycles are a part of love relationships, that alone can help save your marriage, because you realize that you need to do something different in order to, when you realize you don't have those tingly feelings, you're like, oh my God, you get on my nerves every day of the week. We keep having these same problems. Mm-hmm. When you recognize that doesn't mean that your relationship is dying, it means you're going through a cycle and that you have to take a different course of action within that cycle. So it's about educating yourself, paying attention to the cycle within your marriage, paying attention within your own self, your own growth and where you are. So you just have to be, I think awareness is awareness is the greatest. I'm sorry, I was laughing at Camille and her dad. It's about being aware. And Wanda is single, so I really do appreciate you single folks that are on with us today. We really do want to help give you some insight. All right, so did we cover that?
Mm-hmm. All right. Another topic in the book, and this one's pretty funny to me, the toilets are not self-cleaning. What does that mean? What does that mean, the toilets are not self-cleaning? Basically, it means that you got a responsibility in that marriage and you have something to do. And in order to make that relationship grow, you have to establish household roles.
Right, because your toilet at home, when you grew up, your toilet might have always been clean. But here's the deal, it's not self-cleaning. Somebody was cleaning that toilet. It might not have been you. And when you move into your own home and have your own family, your mother is not there to clean the toilets in your house. So somebody, if both of you are expecting the toilets to stay clean, you're going to be in for a surprise. Because that's not the way things happen. You have to make arrangements and some type of agreement. I remember something that happened with us. It was a small thing, but it's an example of this. Was we share a bathroom. That's of course, and pretty much he and I are the only ones who use the bathroom. Well, the trash can bathroom, and I was thinking to myself, why am I always the one empty the trash can? He fills up the trash can too. I'm gonna see just how long it takes before he will empty that trash can. Let me tell you, that trash can was overflowing, and I'm like, doggone it, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna wait and see before he realizes that I'm not the maid. He needs to empty the trash can too. That's,
Yes, I did. I said that was that was a lack of communication, because the understood, in my understanding, without talking to her,
exactly.
is the fact, okay, if I'm going to take the trash out the house, somebody in the house can collect the trash so I can take it out.
You're talking about the smaller trash cans
Smaller
versus the big
trash cans, right? And the smaller trash can was in the bathroom. So normally, my understanding was she take the trash to the bigger trash can and I take it out. I did not know she was going through this mental thing she was going through about how long she was going to let the trash can fill up. And it filled up. It ran over onto the floor, and she looked at it and I looked at it. I'm like, well, she's going to get it to the big trash can so I can take it out. It never happened.
Because I was waiting on him. I'm like, why is he always waiting on me to empty trash? I don't get paid to do that.
And that right there, people, is a lack of communication.
And then when we start talking about it, he says, well, I do the yard work outside. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? And so he had made up in his mind that because he knows I'm not doing any yard work.
Right.
That's just not going to happen. And that goes right back to how you're raised. It was intentional in our family that my mom and my dad both agreed that the girls did not have to mow the grass, or do that kind of outside yard work. I think we used to rake leaves and pick up pecans, but that's about it. Other than that, now my brother used to be out there hustling with my daddy. And my dad used to do, his yard is impeccable. Anybody that knows him knows he keeps his yard impeccable. But he did not teach us to do that because both he and my mom kind of have a hang up on women doing yard work. Now that just happened to be something that they agreed upon. But I, of course, grew up just thinking, not that I thought I was too good for it. That's just not what we do. And so he always did the yard work. He didn't have a problem with it because he liked doing the yard work. We didn't have a problem with it. But he assumed because he did the outside yard work that I was supposed to do the small trash cans. That's not logical to me. We didn't have that conversation. I don't do all the housework. We share the housework.
Yeah, but the trash cans. She was emptying the trash cans, and she taught the girls to empty the trash cans. So most times the trash ended up at the big trash can. Now, when it overflowed at the big trash can, that was simply my responsibility.
See, that was his logic and
Right.
reasoning, though. And see, that goes right back to this topic of toilets are not self-cleaning. You need to have a conscious conversation about who is carrying out what roles within the house or what's shared. That's a conversation that needs to be had. You come from two different households, different sets of values and traditions, and the way you handle things. You cannot assume that the way things were done in your household is what's acceptable to your new household. You have to make rules for your household, for the two of you together. That's very important. All right, we have a question from Amaya Scott. At what point in the marriage did you know that you needed to change some things about yourself to improve? I think it took me a while to realize that I actually need. That was one of my revelations. When we get to the end, we'll say that towards the end, unless you have a response you want to give her on that for now.
No, we can save it to the end.
All right, we'll say that too. That's one of the things we're going to talk about at the end, Maya. So we'll save that question. All right. Another point that the book mentions, things I wish I'd known before we got married, was that you need to have a plan for your money.
Right. So when you're trying to figure out your finances, and I use the word trying because there has to be an agreement with how the money is going to be dispensed, how the money is going to be used. You have to come up with a plan that benefits both parties and to make sure both parties understand what the money is going to be used for. So when you're talking about that, I call it still the process of agreement. You have to agree how the money is going to be used, because misappropriated funds in a marriage household, it can harm a marriage, the peacefulness in the home. So with me and my wife, we went through several ways to manage our money.
Yeah.
When I say several, if this way didn't work and it didn't fulfill what both of us needed, then we tried another way. Then we tried another way. Then we tried another way.
And we had many, many failures.
Many. So with that, it's not a set in stone way of doing it, but it's what works for you and your spouse.
Right.
You know, the way your parents managed money maybe was your daddy came home and gave all the money to your mom, and she dispensed it like she needed to, or your daddy had paid all the bills, full control of the money, and that way. But you got to figure out what plan works for you and your household.
Yeah, that may have worked for them. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. So that's definitely a really big area. Because if your money is not right and you're not on the same page, you will have some marriage problems. Money is one of the biggest areas. I think money and sex, maybe. I can't remember what are the two biggest areas of contention. I think that's what it is money and sex. And that's sex is one of the areas that's covered in the book too. We didn't write that down as one to discuss today, but it does talk about sexual fulfillment is not automatic. That's something else that has to be worked on as well. And not worked on as in frequency, but worked on as in agreement. That's a big area as well. All right, do you want to go ahead and talk about our personal revelations, things that we discovered that we wish we had known, things along the way? These are the ones we've talked about previously, are the things that were mentioned in the book that the author suggested to teach people to be aware of as you're entering into marriage. And so what we want to talk about is a couple of things, our personal revelations, things that we've discovered that I sure wish I had known this before we got married.
Right.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, my one that I'm gonna talk about, and it starts with me being called the head of the household. And when you're called the head of the household and you are a Christian husband and you follow the principles of the Bible, you are considered the head of the household. And what that means, you are responsible for everything that goes on in that household. We've had many discussions about she's waiting on me to move. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, well, this is an issue that both of us have to figure out. What you mean? What am I gonna do? This is something we got to do together. But all she's asking for, let's just start a conversation about it and see where we need to go, so we can move on and not stay in the same spot we're in. So the revelation, I wish somebody would have told me, say, Nick, you are responsible for everything that going in that household, and I mean everything. That's from paying the bills, making sure your wife is sufficiently taken care of, the children, helping out with the decision with the meals, cleaning, from what the girls may be wearing. And another thing is, you as a father figure are an example to your daughters. And that's another revelation that I came in with. So that's my biggest, what I wish I'd have known before I got married.
This is Bishop Bush just made a comment that a couple must be willing to fail in order to, I'm sorry, sticking my finger out, in order to find their correspondence. And that is so huge. I mean, you honestly never get to success without failing. And so you have to be willing to take some risk and to experience some failures in order to find out what works best for you all to correspond. Thank you, Bishop Bush, for bringing that point up. That's huge.
And failure is not something that can be looked at negatively. Failure is a way of growth.
Yeah, it's part of the process of growth.
Yeah, like you said, Thomas Edison found 10,000 ways the light bulb wouldn't work, but he found one that did. Right. So failure is one of those things. It's a method of growth. not something that should be looked at negatively.
Well, one of my revelations that I had that was huge for me is, first of all, the first one that we covered was that love is not just a feeling, that it actually takes skills to make things work. It literally takes skills. It's not something, loving somebody is not enough. Being compatible with somebody is not enough. Those are important components, but they really are not enough. You have to be teachable. You've got to seek to increase in knowledge about the areas, those rough patches that you hit. You have to educate yourself. You got to rely on the Holy Spirit to teach you and to lead you. So, because nobody knows, it is, I can't express how important it is to be believers. I don't know how people get through marriage without being a believer. I can't even begin to counsel on anybody on that. But I know for us, having the Holy Spirit is such a huge part of us being able to stay married. And so that is one of the biggest things that I've learned is that I have to rely on skills and on the Holy Spirit helping me to fill in those gaps. Another one, I'm going to tell my second one, because that's all I have is two that I could think of before we started. Another thing I wish I had known is how much I have to work on myself in order to make the marriage better. The marriage, sometimes we look at it as a third thing, two people and the marriage. I really don't view it that way. I don't know how anybody else views it, but I don't view it that way. I view the marriage as the two of us. We don't have a marriage if one of us is not there. It takes the two of us to have a marriage. And so if I strengthen my weak areas, that strengthens the marriage. And so that's something that I've learned, is that I have to work on myself, and that automatically makes the marriage better.
And one thing that I've learned to do, and it has helped me in my my development as a professional, is the process of agreement. Learning how to go through the process of agreement to come to a resolution, and then that resolution becomes one creation that both of us come up with.
Yes.
That satisfies the need that we have at the time.
Yeah.
So that's my second one. I wish somebody say, learn to be agreeable in the process of marriage, because you can be disagreeable, and the process of marriage can be hard for you.
Right.
Learn to be learn to be agreeable in the process,
and to have your voice heard, because some people are passively agreeable just for the sake of keeping things peaceful on the surface. But if you have inner turmoil for the sake of what looks like peace on the outside, you're sabotaging a relationship. So you have to make sure that your voice is heard and that you hear your partner's voice. And between the two of you, there is a middle ground or a better resolution together than what you probably would have come up with by yourself. That's something I could have put on my list. Something I wish I had known too was that very thing. It's that the two of us putting our ideas together, there's always a third alternative that we tend to come up with that's better than what we could have done alone. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. What were you reading?
Oh, I was reading another comment by Bishop.
Oh, about the different sexes? Oh my gosh. He's taught us so much on that. You want to talk about that a little bit before we go?
We got this last question we got to address before we go.
Okay, well, let me just elaborate a little bit on what Bishop put in about the different sexes. I'll always be female. He will always be male. And there are patterns and tendencies of our design as male and female that do not change. And so it is in our best interest, it's in my best interest to get a better understanding of his maleness and also of my femaleness in order for us to be able to correspond and work together. I have to regard his manliness. He has to regard my femininity. Those are things that are not weaknesses. That's by design. That's the way God, that's why we match. Male and female match. That's God's design. And so that's something that we have to keep in mind as the relationship is growing and as we move through difficult points, is I have to accommodate his maleness just as he has to accommodate me being a female.
Okay. We're going to end with Miss Maya's question. At what point in the marriage did you know that you needed to change some things about you? The one thing I can say about that, Maya, is you know when you're in conflict or your personality is in conflict or what you do is in conflict with your marriage, because things that hadn't interrupted it before now become distractions. And I can say it like this. For me and my wife, when I was, really into the act of coaching, I just knew I was going to be a head football coach somewhere, and I was going to run my program and produce all these nice young men and send them off to college and all that. But I knew there was an element of time that had to be done, and that was taken away from my family. So when the game became in conflict with my family, there was no issue anymore. I mean, the issue was I love football and I love my family, but the football does not compete with my family. My family will always come first. So that's something that I had to change. And when I changed that, the marriage improved. I mean, in everything that I could have been blessed with the accolades of football and what comes with that and in the sports, the accolades I got from my family, it was way more than that, than I could ever think. Because I went through this process of thought one day, if something happened to me, and at the time, Coach Brinson, if something happened to Coach Brinson, who's going to be there for him all the time? The players will come say, hey, Coach, how you doing? I hope you feel better. The parents are, sending letters and whatever they do on Facebook. But it was going to be the three ladies in my house that was going to be there with me the whole time. And God gave me that revelation. So it was not an issue for me to change from pulling back from the sports and devoting that more time to my family. So you got to see what needs to happen within your situation in order for you to know what you need to do to improve.
Yeah, that's good. I think for me, the point at which I realized I had to change some things was when I realized that I was miserable. And I couldn't blame it on, I could blame it on him, but the blame doesn't really get me to a point of healing. It's just like, you fall deeper and deeper into a hole. The blame was not helpful. And so when I realized that I was not happy, I had to do something within myself in order to get to a place to where my life was what I wanted it to be. And so I realized that I did not want to have to start over with the relationship, because I really did know that the problem with the relationship was not just him, that I play a part in this too. And so I had to accept that responsibility, that I didn't like my current situation, but I can't do anything to change him. I can only change me. And the things that I was having problems with him were related to his job. They were things related to, it goes back to the love language. Me not having my needs fulfilled, and so the more I learned about myself, it helped to strengthen the marriage. And then I had to learn to get to a place to where I was happy with me, and that I could show up better in the marriage. And so that's a part of a personal journey for me, but that makes the marriage better. And that's an ongoing process. I am always working on me. I'm a big project for myself. So I'm always working on me, and also taking the focus off of him allows me to focus on me. And what I do is I pray about the things that I see in him that I see as problematic, because sometimes all the time my perspective is colored by my experiences and my thoughts and my beliefs. Mm-hmm. And so the things that I see in him that are a problem, that I think are a problem, may or may not actually be a problem. So what I've learned to do is, God, he belongs to you. Mm-hmm. I submitted under his leadership. I'm not going to beat my head against a wall trying to tell him that, because I used to say over and over, I didn't sign up to be a single parent. You know, you out there saving the world. You know, all these, you know, everybody patting you on the back for what you're doing for other people's children. What about your own? You know, when you leave in the morning and you come home at night, there's a lot of day that happen in between. You see it, you leaving before they get up in the morning and they getting into bed when you come home at night, you're missing their lives. I couldn't explain that to him in a way that he could hear. And so that was just one of those things I just had to pray about. And, you know, just like he said, that was something he came to terms with between him and God. So that's just what I've learned to do. And that's something I also got from my mother too. She was, you know, she told me you just have to pray about some things and allow God to do what he does. And because sometimes we get in God's way. We get in our own way. You know, and we get to doing too much. We can't be God to our spouse. That's not your job. You're in the way. So.
And honestly, with her saying that, it looked like, you know, and I've talked to the bishop about it, and it looks like she was in the way of my development and my goals and my aspiration by, you know, just coming at me with, you know, you're missing your children's life. You're not giving me this kind of time. But in my mind, in my youthfulness, and I'm mature through that now, in my youthfulness, I was like, okay, she's trying to stop me from reaching my ultimate goal. And, you know, maybe she ain't the one for me to do what I need to do as far as this career is concerned. And that was some foolish thinking from the rip. And when she, like she said, when she got out the way and let God work on me, woo-wee. There's another story right there, how God worked on me during that time to really change my focus. And I just thank God that he did.
Yeah. All right, we have gone way over our intended time.
Yes.
So we apologize. We do try to keep it succinct. But I've enjoyed this topic today, and I hope it's been helpful to you guys. Did we miss any questions, Camille? Okay.
Maya said thank you.
Maya said, you're welcome, Maya. I'm so glad you were able to join us. Maya's a fairly newlywed too, if I'm not mistaken. So we're very glad to have the Evergreen crowd joining us today, as well as our faithful Crown Christian folks. So thank you guys for joining us. I'm sorry, Crown Kingdom Cultural Center, Bishop, I'm trying. I'm so sorry. Getting used to the church, the change in the church name is very similar to the old one. But we appreciate you guys. And if you have ideas for topics, we are always open. We could talk for days about all the stuff we've been through. But we certainly want to meet your needs as well. So feel free to, a lot of y'all have our phone numbers, text,
Facebook.
message us on Facebook. Let us know what ideas you guys, areas of concern that you guys have. If we don't have experience in that area, I know we haven't really had to deal with like infidelity or abuse and things like that, but I know those are real topics that people deal with. So if we need to pull in some other people to help us cover those topics, we are willing to do that if those are areas of concern that you guys have. So we're always open to hearing from you and getting some feedback.
All right. With that said, we just want to thank you for joining us tonight. From the lady and the coach, good night. We love you.
Good night.